let's look at the third possibility, masturbation as an outlet. Now, masturbation, ladies and gentlemen, is a much maligned word. It has all sorts of meanings to people that it ranges from evil and sinful to downright dangerous. Masturbation is simply sexual stimulation by oneself. It is producing an orgasm by oneself. It is not a human vice, not a sin, but a general aid of the sexually lonely individual. It is therefore found everywhere. Among men, Kinsey has found it is practiced by 92% of the male population. He says it's only 92% because the other 8% are having intercourse. All people, 70% by the way among women, all people pass through some kind of masturbatory period. It can go from 13 through life or until an opportunity for intercourse with others. Those who do not practice it may be in for a great surprise. There is, of course, in masturbation, a very important thing to consider, and that is the worry and guilt that goes with it. The time has certainly come to talk to your children freely and honestly about the problems of masturbation. You would be surprised how many people pass through offices of doctors and psychiatrists filled with all sorts of neuroses as a result of what they believe masturbation can do to them. For many years, even up to now, there are people who preach that masturbation causes all sorts of dangerous symptoms, from loss of hair, to pimples, to loss of vision, to flat feet, to belching, or a neurotic mother-in-law. I have known some cases where masturbation even prevented marriage. Now, first of all, let us understand that the danger of masturbation does not come from its practice, but from the teachings that masturbation is dangerous. In other words, there is absolutely no harm at all from masturbation. The question I would like to ask you is this: would you rather your son practiced masturbation or seduced the neighbor's daughter? Which do you think would be more desirable? Don't teach him that masturbation is going to cause all kinds of illnesses, because he'll suddenly realize he should be quite sick. Now, first of all, actually, physically, it doesn't make any difference to the sex glands which way they receive their stimulation. Even the sex organs don't know where the stimulation is coming from, because if they did, a sperm cell would say, "What? This is masturbation, I refuse to move." And yet, even today, the idea exists in a considerable part of the population that masturbation is in some way harmful to health. People say, "I always feel very tired afterwards. I can't concentrate as well the next day. How can I be strong when I've lost such a vital fluid? Who knows whether I'll have any left by the time I get married?" They treasure every drop lovingly. And the truth of the matter is, the damn stuff isn't worth 2 cents. So, by the way, the only physical result I know for masturbation is a strong arm. Instead of being a dangerous thing, I think that children should actually be encouraged to masturbation. Not discouraged, but encouraged. It'll give them an outlet. You'll be honest about it. Are you trying to say that your child has no sex drive, that he's so frigid, that he's a sex moron? Every child who's healthy has a sex drive. Now, you've got to give it an outlet. Either sublimation, masturbation, or intercourse. If you can achieve the sublimation, that's wonderful. I doubt that you will. So what happens? A child just learns to lie to you, refuses to tell you, and you refuse to even look at the truth. I know one man who told his son, "You must never play with yourself because it'll fall off." Imagine that little boy going around with an adhesive tape waiting for the blow to strike. I wish that all boys and girls could be taught early in their lives that masturbation should be looked upon for what it really is. It's a form of artificial respiration. Properly used without guilt, shame, and a healthy attitude, then it's an excellent and wholesome adjustment. By the way, do you know that when a child sucks his thumb, an infant sucks his thumb, that this is a form of masturbation? Because the infant's sex area is in his mouth. I love the story of one mother who told her little girl, "You must never suck your thumb, because if you do, you'll blow up and bust." She got her on a bus one day, and sitting across from them was a pregnant woman. The little girl walked up to her and said, "Oh, I bet I know what you've been doing." stop their children from sucking their thumbs. Now, leave him alone, because his sex zone is in his mouth. Don't stop him. Later on, it'll move lower down. It's a form of sex expression. Another mother said, yes, but he can get crooked teeth from it. Crooked teeth. What nonsense. All his teeth fall out anyway, and new ones grow in. Crooked teeth. My brother sucked his whole hand until he was 15 years old. And he's got perfect teeth. No hand, but perfect teeth. Now we come to one phase of sex that there is certainly more lies about, more misunderstanding, and more ignorance than any other. And that phase, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem of homosexuality in the world and in America today. I won't even ask you what your attitudes are about it. I won't ask you what you believe, because whatever you know is probably wrong. And not only wrong, but dangerous. I will not engage with you in a colloquy as to whether homosexuality is born or acquired. Now, there are two schools of thought on this. The best one that I've ever seen, the best statement on homosexuality I have ever come across, ladies and gentlemen, is one that has been made by one of the finest psychiatrists this world has ever seen. His name was Dr. John Rathbone Oliver. He was professor of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University. In addition to that, he was a priest in a Protestant church. In addition to that, he was Surgeon General for the United States Army during the war. In order to save a great deal of time, a great deal, I'm going to give you this important statement of this wonderful psychiatrist. And I will tell you at the outset that I agree with him completely, completely. Now you decide for yourself. We must now turn to the difficult but very important subject of homoeroticism. These sex reactions that take place between two people of the same sex. And let me exhort you once again to approach this topic in a scientific frame of mind. The historian is never tempted to despise the homosexual man or woman. He knows how much these types have contributed to the happiness of the world, even if the modern world has allowed but little happiness to them. Alexander the Great, Michelangelo, and hundreds of other important names belong among the homoerotics on the male side, while Rosa Bonheur, George Eliot, George Sand, and hundreds of similar women, all with homoerotic traits, have been among the creative types, musicians, artists, writers. Nor does the psychologist despise this type any more than the historian. Unfortunately, however, he sees it not in its unrestrained powers of creative activity, but hampered by convention, misjudged, and often persecuted. He knows how many mental maladjustments, how many nervous breakdowns, so-called, are the results of repressed or tabooed homoerotic desires. Indeed, there is a group of psychiatrists who are prone to attribute almost every mental difficulty, every phobia, every source of mental friction to suppressed homoerotic tendencies. The parish priest who hears a great many confessions knows also a great deal about the difficulties, the mental torments of the homoerotic man or woman. So does the judge. For our worn-out, antiquated laws still stamp homoerotic relationships, between men at least, as a crime. Fortunately, most modern judges are more enlightened in the law that they must apply. But the attitude of the ordinary man or woman is still the attitude of the unchristian, unscientific tradition that we have inherited from centuries of misunderstanding and persecution. Nature, as I have said, never does anything per saltum. She makes no jumps. There are always connecting links between extremes. I told you that an absolute male personality does not exist, nor does an absolute female type exist either. And just as we all have in our bodies elements of both sexes, so in our sex reactions we have possibilities of sexual attraction to our own sex as well as to the opposite sex. That is true of the great majority of us. But there are people who are predominantly homoerotic. How many of them are there? Investigations of various types have been made in many countries along these lines. We may take it as generally accepted that in every 100 men, there is at least one definitely homoerotic personality. among every 100 women at least one clean-cut homoerotic female. Take the population of an ordinary city and work out how many homoerotic types among men and women there are. Then there are transition types that we may call bi-erotic, for want of a better name. They are attracted to both sexes. Such women have homoerotic experiences and yet marry and bear children. Such bi-erotic males may be good husbands and yet be definitely attracted now and then by some members of their own sex. Of such types, there are probably 2 in every 100 individuals.